Welcome to Silent Motives. I'm your host, Raina Doll, and today we're diving into something most people never talk about openly. Here's a truth that might sting a little. The moment you walk out of a woman's life, even temporarily, a quiet and invisible process begins. One that you cannot see, cannot control, and, most dangerously, one that you probably don't even know is happening. She isn't just waiting. She isn't just missing you. She is evaluating you, measuring you, and slowly but surely deciding whether you are worth the space you occupy in her heart. And by the time you return, that decision may already be made. The question is, will you like the answer? Most men think a woman's feelings during their absence are straightforward. She either misses you or she doesn't. She either stays emotionally connected or she drifts. But that kind of black and white thinking is exactly what leaves men blindsided when she suddenly grows cold, distant, or worse, completely unbothered. The reality is so much more layered than that. A woman's mind during your absence is not a simple, quiet room where your memory sits patiently on a shelf. It's an active, living, breathing space where emotions shift, comparisons are made, and silent conclusions are reached every single day you're not there. This is where most men get it catastrophically wrong. They lean back on that old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, as if it's some universal law written in stone. It isn't. Absence can absolutely deepen her longing for you, but it can also do the exact opposite. It can create space for clarity she didn't have before. It can give her the breathing room to realize she's actually okay without you. It can open doors in her mind that your constant presence was keeping shut. Which direction her feelings travel during your absence depends entirely on two things: who you were to her before you left, and what you silently communicate while you're gone. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Women are constantly recalibrating, even in silence, even when nothing dramatic is happening, even when she's smiling at her phone or going about her day unbothered. Underneath all of that, she is measuring. She's measuring how much your absence affects her mood, her routine, her sense of security. She's asking herself questions she might not even consciously realize she's asking. And every answer she arrives at either pulls her closer to you or quietly loosens the thread that connects you. Today, I want to walk you through exactly what is happening inside her mind when you're not around. From the first wave of longing, to the slow creep of doubt, all the way to that dangerous turning point where she begins to imagine what life looks like without you in it permanently. If you've ever come back from an absence and felt like something had quietly shifted, this is going to explain everything. The first thing that happens when you step away is that she begins testing your value in silence. Now, I don't mean she's sitting there with a checklist plotting against you. These aren't deliberate or even conscious tests. They're emotional assessments that happen naturally, instinctively, almost like her heart is running a background program you can't see. She notices how much mental real estate you occupy when you're not physically present. She pays attention to whether her day feels different without you, whether there's a noticeable gap where you used to be, or whether life flows just as smoothly without your presence in it. If you were someone who brought genuine excitement into her life, who made her feel emotionally anchored, who carried yourself with a quiet confidence and sense of direction, then your absence is going to feel like something is missing. She'll notice it. She'll think about you. She'll feel a pull toward reconnecting that she can't quite explain. But if you were someone who showed up as needy, who made her feel responsible for your emotional stability, who was always available to the point of becoming predictable, then your absence doesn't create longing. It creates space. And space, in that context, can feel a lot like relief. The uncomfortable truth is this: the less completely she has you figured out, the more she tends to value you when you're gone. A man with depth, purpose, and a life that exists beyond her is a man whose absence is genuinely felt. But a man who has made himself entirely transparent, who has handed over all his cards, who orbits her world without a gravitational pull of his own, his absence doesn't create mystery. It just creates quiet. And quiet is very easy to get used to. While you're away, she's silently working through questions she may never voice out loud. Does she miss him because she genuinely wants him? Or simply because he's become a habit? Does she feel more at peace with him gone? Is there a specific gap in her life that only he can fill? Or could someone else, or even no one, step into that space just as comfortably? Every honest answer she gives herself, whether she's fully aware of it or not, is either reinforcing her emotional connection to you or quietly chipping away at it. Think about the difference between two scenarios. In the first, you step back from daily contact for a week because life is genuinely full and demanding. You don't bombard her with messages, but when you do reach out, it's intentional and it lands with weight. She starts to wonder what you're doing, starts to feel the absence of your energy, and finds herself looking forward to hearing from you. In the second scenario, you send "I miss you" texts 4 times a day. You check in constantly. You make sure she always knows exactly where you are and what you're thinking. She never actually feels your absence because you never really gave it the chance to exist. And without absence, there is no longing. There is only familiarity, and familiarity without tension eventually flatlines. The next thing happening in her mind while you're away is something I call the attraction clock. From the moment you step out of her present reality, a kind of emotional timer begins counting. This clock isn't measuring how long you've been gone in calendar terms. It's measuring how long her emotional connection to you can sustain itself without being actively nourished. And most men have no idea this clock even exists, let alone that it's already running. In the early stretch of your absence, things might actually feel positive. She may find herself thinking about you more than usual, replaying small moments, feeling a warmth when something reminds her of you. This is the window where absence is genuinely working in your favor. Her attraction hasn't faded. If anything, it's been concentrated by your absence into something more vivid and acute. But this window doesn't stay open forever. The longer the clock runs without any meaningful emotional contact, the more that warmth begins to cool. What started as longing quietly transitions into adjustment. And adjustment is the beginning of moving on. This is why the idea of playing hard to get, taken too far, can quietly destroy what you spent so long building. Mystery is magnetic, yes, but mystery without any emotional warmth or connection eventually just feels like indifference. And no one stays emotionally invested in someone who feels indifferent toward them. The goal isn't to disappear completely. The goal is to maintain just enough presence that her emotional connection to you stays alive and breathing, without becoming so constant that she stops feeling your absence at all. What men don't realize is that women are capable of emotional resets that happen far faster than men typically expect. Once the clock runs all the way down, once she has fully adjusted to your absence and stopped feeling the emotional gap you left, the urgency to reconnect simply evaporates. And when urgency evaporates, so does a significant portion of her desire. That's when her independence starts filling the space where your presence used to live. That's when new routines, new conversations, and new sources of emotional energy begin replacing the role you once occupied. The way to prevent this isn't desperation or constant contact. It's strategic emotional presence. A single, unexpected message that references something specific and personal. A voice note that catches her off guard and reminds her of something only the two of you share. These small but carefully placed moments can reset the clock entirely, pulling her attention back to you just when it was beginning to drift elsewhere. Here's something else that's quietly happening while you're away, and this one tends to catch men completely off guard. She's noticing who and what fills the gap you left behind. Life doesn't pause for her just because you're not in it right now. Her days keep moving. Her emotional needs keep existing. And the space that you previously occupied begins attracting other things, almost like nature rushing in to fill a vacuum. Sometimes those gap fillers are completely harmless, a closer bond with her friends, a new hobby that's been giving her life, a deeper focus on her own goals. But sometimes those gap fillers are people. And people who show up consistently during your absence can begin building an emotional familiarity that starts to rival yours. She isn't necessarily doing this deliberately. She isn't scheming or calculating. She's simply human, and humans are wired to seek connection and emotional fulfillment. If you were her person, the one she called first when something funny happened, the one she processed her day with, the one whose energy made her feel safe and seen, then your absence creates a noticeable void in those specific moments. And if someone else starts showing up in those moments, consistently and attentively, they begin earning something that took you much longer to build. And they're doing it while you're not even in the room. Pay attention to the small signals when you return. Does she still reach for her phone to call you first? Or does news travel to you second or third now? Does she share things with you the way she used to? Or does it feel like you're being given edited highlights rather than the unfiltered version? These shifts don't always mean something catastrophic has happened, but they are signs that your position in her emotional hierarchy has quietly moved. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss them until the distance has become too wide to easily close. What accelerates this process more than almost anything else is the fading of emotional memory. This is the part that most men genuinely don't want to sit with, but it is absolutely essential to understand. There is a widespread belief among men that once you've created a truly powerful emotional experience with a woman, that experience is preserved, that she will always be able to close her eyes and feel what it felt like to be with you at your best. And that feeling will protect your place in her heart no matter how much time passes or how absent you become. That belief is a comfortable illusion, and it can cost you everything. Emotional memory is not a photograph. It doesn't stay sharp and vivid indefinitely. It's more like a candle. While it's burning, it's warm and immediate and present. But left unattended, it slowly burns down. And once it goes out, what remains isn't warmth. It's just wax. At first, yes, she replays the good moments. The laughter, the specific way you made her feel understood, the chemistry that made everything feel electric. But as time passes and those memories aren't being reinforced by new ones, they begin losing their emotional charge. What once made her heart move starts feeling more like a distant story than a living feeling. Women are present tense creatures when it comes to emotional experience. What is happening right now? How she feels in this current moment? What her life looks and feels like today? That is what shapes her emotional reality. If her present is full and rich and genuinely good, and you are not a part of that present, the version of you she remembers will gradually feel less and less relevant to who she is right now. You need to internalize this. Emotional momentum is not optional. It is the entire game. You cannot coast on what you built last season and expect it to carry you through this one. The connection requires tending. The fire requires fuel. Woven through all of this is a question she eventually asks herself, quietly and honestly, in those unguarded moments when no one is watching and she's just alone with her own thoughts. Is he actually worth missing? Not as a title, not as a habit, not as a familiar comfort, but as a person who genuinely adds something irreplaceable to her life. This question is asked by every woman about every man she has ever cared about during a significant absence. And the answer she arrives at is shaped entirely by the foundation you laid before you left. When you are physically present, small shortcomings tend to get smoothed over by proximity and chemistry and the general momentum of being together. Your presence itself carries a kind of social and emotional weight that compensates for gaps. But in your absence, that compensation disappears. She's left with just her unfiltered thoughts about who you actually are, what you actually bring, and whether the life she lives with you in it is meaningfully richer than the life she lives without you. If the honest answer is yes, she will miss you deeply, and that missing will carry a kind of respect and desire that actually strengthens your connection. But if the honest answer is no, or even maybe, then your absence isn't creating longing. It's creating clarity. And clarity has a way of closing doors. Titles mean nothing in this equation. Being her boyfriend, her partner, her husband. These labels carry social weight, but they do not manufacture emotional desire. What makes a woman miss a man is not the role he holds in her life on paper. It is the feeling he creates in her life in practice. The sense that her world is genuinely better, more interesting, more alive with him in it. If you have been that man, your absence will be felt like a missing ingredient. If you haven't, your absence might quietly go unnoticed, or worse, feel like a long overdue exhale. Something else that doesn't get talked about enough is what happens to her emotional needs while you're away. Those needs don't disappear. They don't go dormant. They don't patiently wait for your return. They are alive and active and seeking fulfillment every single day because that is what emotional needs do. The need to feel heard, to feel appreciated, to feel desired, to feel like someone is genuinely interested in her inner world. When you are present and engaged, you are likely meeting many of these needs without even consciously thinking about it. But in your absence, those needs don't get a memo that says, hold off until he's back. They simply begin looking elsewhere. This is not a character flaw. This is not a betrayal waiting to happen. This is human nature doing exactly what human nature does. And the frightening part is how quietly and naturally this process unfolds. She isn't trying to replace you. She's just trying to feel okay. And if feeling okay starts to happen through conversations with someone else, through a friendship that has deepened in your absence, through any source that consistently shows up and makes her feel the way you used to make her feel, that source begins to accumulate emotional significance. And significance, over time, becomes attachment. The men who get blindsided by this are almost always men who mistook her not complaining for things being fine. Silence is not the same as contentment. A woman who is quietly shifting her emotional focus away from you is not going to announce it. She's going to keep the surface looking relatively normal while the deeper current changes direction underneath. And by the time you notice, the shift may already be so far along that reclaiming your original position requires starting almost from scratch. By the time you actually return, she has already decided something. Not necessarily consciously, not necessarily with finality, but emotionally, she has already formed an impression of what your return means and how much it matters to her. If your absence was handled with intention and emotional intelligence, if you left her with curiosity and showed up even from a distance in ways that reminded her of your depth and your connection, then your return feels like an event. Something she has been genuinely looking forward to. Something that carries weight and excitement and a sense of something good arriving. But if your absence was filled with neediness, or with the kind of total silence that communicates indifference, then your return doesn't feel like a reunion. It feels like a Tuesday. Unremarkable. Easy to move past. What determines which of these realities you walk back into is not the grand gesture you make when you arrive. It is everything you did, or didn't do, in the space between. The emotional build-up. The subtle reminders that you are still a present, engaged, interesting force in her life, even when you're not standing in front of her. That is what she carries into, the moment she sees your face again. That is what decides whether her eyes light up or stay flat. Here is what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Your absence is never neutral. It is always doing something. It is either deepening her desire for you or quietly teaching her how to live without you. It is either reinforcing why you matter or slowly dissolving the reasons she thought you did. And the version of you that exists in her mind during that absence, the emotional impression you left behind, that version of you is either working for you or against you every single hour you're gone. The truth is, a woman's feelings are never on permanent hold. They are always in motion, always being shaped by new information, new experiences, and new emotional realities. And if you are not actively being a part of that motion, something else will be. So the question to sit with is not whether she misses you. The question is whether you have given her something worth missing in the first place. And if you haven't yet, the most powerful time to start is always right now, before the next absence begins. I'm Raina Doll, and this is Silent Motives. If anything in today's conversation landed for you, I want to hear about it. Drop your experience in the comments below. I read them, I reflect on them, and I genuinely engage because these are the conversations that matter. And if you want to be here when we go even deeper, make sure you're subscribed because the next episode is going to shake something loose in you. We're talking about the signs that she is already emotionally pulling away, even while everything on the surface still looks fine. You don't